Just when you thought the housing crisis couldn't get any worse, think again. You know how millions can no longer afford to buy their own home in Australia? Well, we just learnt that the government doesn't give a rat's ass. In fact, it looks like they might actually want to make things worse. This can only be described as the ultimate betrayal. I'm Biko Konstantinos, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I've got over 20,000 awesome subscribers and I don't know what they see in me. Other than a Greek stallion, that is. But seriously, my subscribers are the bloody best. Some agree with me, some disagree, but we all agree on one thing. The original Star Wars was the best.
Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
I mean, what the hell is this? Now let's check out how millions of Australians have received the ultimate betrayal. For today's video, we're going to check out an interview that Australian Housing Minister Claire O'Neil had on the Triple J Hack podcast.
What is the goal here in terms of these policies? Is it to bring down house prices?
I bloody hope so. House prices in Australia are absolutely insane. If a young person doesn't have support from their parents, whether that be from a large inheritance, helping to buy a home, or even allowing a young person to live with them to help them to save for a home deposit. Without the support, it's next to impossible to try and break into the current Australian housing market. We've got a shockingly low rental vacancy rate created by mass immigration, which has resulted in the Hunger Games for rentals, and this has created an environment where rent prices have surged. So if you're lucky enough to find a rental, you're paying a huge chunk of your income just to be able to afford it. And on top of that, cost of living expenses have skyrocketed. So to provide a fair go for the millions of Australians in this situation, yes, we do bloody want house prices to fall.
Is that what the government wants to do?
We want to bring house price growth into something sustainable. So we're not trying to bring down house prices.
We're not trying to bring down house prices. So let me get this straight. Since around the year 2000, house prices started massively outperforming wages. So where wages might have grown by 3% every year, house prices grew by around 6 to 7%. And each year this continued, the gap between house prices and wages continued to grow wider and wider. This meant that house prices became more and more unaffordable as time went on. So each new generation since the year 2000 have found it significantly more difficult to purchase their own home. But then what happened? The pandemic hit in 2020, and for some reason we used that opportunity to turn home ownership from something that was difficult to virtually impossible. Unprecedented stimulus, flooding the economy with way too much money, RBA reducing rates to near zero, and then forecasting no rate rises until 2024, and then pumping immigration to levels unheard of. So all this combined sent house prices through the freaking roof, with capital gains of over 50% in many major cities, and in some areas up to 100% just since the pandemic. These oversized housing gains have all come from government and RBA policies over the years. Policies that encourage speculative demand for property. So we as a country have gotten ourselves into this mess. We've artificially inflated house prices, especially over the last few years, basically destroying the wealth prospects for anyone who doesn't own a home. And we don't want to see any declines. It's hard to fathom.
But we don't want to see some of the growth that we've seen in some parts of the country where you're getting double-digit increases in house prices year on year.
So we want to see house prices rise, but we don't want double-digit growth year after year. What does that mean? Do we want 9% growth each year? Do we want the longer-term average of 6 to 7% growth each year, considering that wages might only continue to grow by around 3%, making it more and more unaffordable each and every year? What I'm hearing is that we as a country want to continue to support property owners, while at the same time we're happy for the lives of those who don't own property to get significantly worse year after year.
If you're looking to get into the market, if you're a young person looking at what's ahead of you, you definitely want to see house prices come down.
Absolutely. house price declines will be the fastest way to improve affordability. However, even if house prices were flat for a number of years, but wages continued to grow, that would also start to improve housing affordability. However, the minister is stating that they don't even want that.
Well, that may be the view of young people. It's not the view of our government.
How about that for a giant middle finger to all those Australians who just want to own their own home? You're being told that Australia is happy to have a two-tier wealth system between those who own property and those who don't. So if you want to own a home one day, the message is too bad, so sad.
We want to see sustainable price growth.
What's sustainable price growth? For 25 years now, the growth has been unsustainable. If we keep going down this path, only the rich will be able to afford homes. Is that the sort of Australia we want? A country where there's no fair go for everyone? A country where you can work your ass off and still have no chance of owning your own home? That's not the bloody country I want.
We want to see more houses come online. We want to see that rental vacancy rate go up a bit because that will relieve pressure on renters.
Rental vacancy go up a bit? Australia's got one of the worst rental vacancies in the developed world. And just recently it's been around 1%, which is basically crisis levels. A healthy rental vacancy rate is considered around 3% because that gives a good power balance between landlords and renters where neither side really has greater power. However, with rental vacancies kept ultra low, landlords have all the power and renters get screwed over. But this seems to be the Australian policy. Support property owners, screw everyone else.
And we certainly want to see more homeowners, and the government has taken action on all of those pieces.
How will we see more homeowners if housing affordability continues to deteriorate? What we're likely to see is more property owners owning multiple properties while more and more Australians own diddly squat.
But Minister, if house prices don't come down, doesn't that mean that this system is stacked against young people, that it's just not going to work for them?
Sure, and Dave, we may have a difference of view about this. I have a strong view.
A strong view that will allow investors to buy their 6th, 7th and 8th property above a first homeowner just trying to get into the market.
You get nothing!
Check out Anthony Albanese's view on this in 2016 when he was in opposition.
We're in danger of developing a society whereby some people are able to buy their 6th, 7th, 8th home, but people trying to get into the housing market to buy their first home simply aren't able to.
So they're now basically enabling what they originally stood against.
Our government's policies are not going to reduce house prices. We want house prices to grow sustainably.
So there you have it. The government is purposely trying to inflate house prices. And yes, house prices should grow as a major asset. But if affordability is to be maintained, the goal should be for that growth to be closely aligned to wages growth. But this just basically reaffirms how Australia is obsessed with inflating the housing bubble. But is every country like that? Let's have a listen to what the New Zealand housing minister had to say to a very similar question.
Housing's too expensive in New Zealand.
Price needs to reduce.
We want housing to be more affordable for New Zealanders. That is a major work stream of this government. The flip side of house prices falling for people who own homes is that they become more affordable for people who don't own homes.
Completely different response, which seeks to provide future generations the opportunity for home ownership.
Our government's policies are not going to reduce house prices.
This is an absolute betrayal to millions of Australians and to future generations. I'm Biko Konstantinos.